Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to dissect the absolute nightmare that is the cinematic descent of the last voyage of the Demeter. This film is a truly fascinating, deeply terrifying dive based entirely on the chilling Captain's Log chapter from Bram Stoker's classic 1897 novel. So instead of giving us the whole sprawling Dracula story, it completely traps us on a doomed Russian schooner, making this treacherous voyage from Transylvania to London. It is a claustrophobic, incredibly tense narrative, and we're going to break down exactly how this film crafts its unique, unsettling version of the ultimate vampire myth. Honestly, if you think you know Dracula, this explainer will show you why you might want to reconsider. Okay, let's jump right into this. The dread starts immediately with a terrifying warning from a local dock worker. "I know this, Mark. It is a bad omen. Keep your gold. Devil, serpent, God, save you all." Right out of the gate, the source material highlights just how absolutely terrified the locals are. When a giant crate nearly falls and reveals a dragon symbol, a newly hired hand outright quits on the spot, literally leaving his gold behind. He knows exactly what's inside, and his panicked exit perfectly sets the ominous tone for the whole shebang. Section 1. A Cursed Cargo. The journey begins. Let's look at how this nightmare actually kicks off, because the logistics of this departure are just layered with dread. By daytime, the crates are delivered, but as dusk approaches, the panicked dockhands refuse to stay. They actually pay the ship's captain more than the cargo delivery fee just to get away as fast as humanly possible. This sudden abandonment leaves the captain frantically scrambling to hire replacements, right before casting off at nightfall. And well, that is exactly how our main character, Mr. Clemens, a man with medical and astronomical training just looking for passage back to England, ends up securing a spot on a ship he will very quickly wish he had never boarded. Now, you might be wondering about that dragon symbol highlighted on the crates. This lore connection is absolutely fascinating. It ties this creature not just to traditional vampires, but directly to the devil himself. You see, in Romanian, the name Dracula translates directly to dragon, or of the dragon. And as our source analysis points out, dragons in Christian scripture, specifically in the Book of Revelation, are often direct symbols for Satan. The film leans into this so heavily that throughout the entire movie, nobody ever uses the word vampire. They literally only refer to the creature as a devil. 50. That is the exact number of mysterious, incredibly heavy wooden crates loaded onto the schooner. We learn that these crates are packed with Transylvanian dirt. And if you know the lore, this is crucial. The creature has to rest in the soil of his homeland to maintain his power during the day. Tucked away among the dirt, there's also this very ominous wolf head cane embellished with silver, which is a great little hint at the aristocratic monster buried inside. Moving right along to Section 2, The Awakening. The crew is not alone. You can practically feel the escalating dread on the ship here. The natural world instantly rejects the unnatural presence waking up in the cargo hold. First off, the rats, which, let's be honest, are a staple on any 19th century vessel, they completely vanish. One crewman even points out that a ship with no rats is simply against nature. Then, during a massive storm, the livestock go entirely mad with fear, and shortly after, the ship's dog is found brutally mutilated. The crew initially thinks it's a rabies outbreak, but Mr. Clemens, being the ship's doctor, knows for sure that something far more sinister is going on. Things go from bad to worse after a heavy wave causes one of the crates to fall and shatter, revealing a severely infected woman named Anna buried in the dirt. As Mr. Clemens uses blood transfusions to try and save her, the crew has absolutely no idea that the creature is awake. It listens to her heartbeat. He knows exactly who she is, and through the wooden walls he whispers a single terrifying word to her: feed. Section 3. Hunted at Sea. The monster strikes. When Anna finally wakes up from her comatose state, she reveals the devastating truth about her village's generational submission to the creature they call Dracula. She explains that we're dealing with an evil older than the castle itself, an entity that only appears as a man when it wants to hide its true monstrous nature. For generations, the village elders made these dark bargains for their safety, essentially providing human sacrifices to keep the beast at bay. Anna shows Mr. Clemens that she is covered in bite marks. She was deliberately brought on board to serve as Dracula's mid-voyage food supply. And then we get this incredibly visceral moment where the creature begins picking off the crew. When he corners a crewman named Olgarin in the sails, the sheer horror of the monster is fully revealed. Forget the charming nobleman trope. We see a feral beast with gray skin, faded eyes, and jagged fangs. When Olgarin begs for his life, yelling no, the creature just smiles this deeply unsettling smile and creepily repeats the word back to him, no. It's a terrifying mockery of human speech that just totally strips away any illusion of humanity. It is chilling to see the methodical way this creature picks off the crew, showcasing strength way beyond a normal man. Take Petrovsky, tossed into the ocean without a trace. Larson, smashed into the deck with inhuman force. And Olgarin is left alive, but bitten and deeply traumatized, just hanging from the rigging. Dracula's playing with his food here, and he is entirely in control of the game. Which brings us to Section 4, the infection. A new threat emerges. The infection cycle in this story is just brutal. It claims Olgarin, who eventually turns. First, his body becomes ice cold, which is your classic sign of the undead. His eyes begin to mirror Dracula's, and he starts acting as a possessed familiar, even attacking the captain's young son Toby. Tragically, when the sun rises, the infected don't just quietly turn to dust. The film takes a much more brutal approach. Olgarin burns alive, screaming in absolute agony. And heartbreakingly, it also claims Toby, who later wakes up in a body bag, only to meet the exact same fiery fate in the sun, severely burning his own father in the process. And right about here is the truly chilling realization for the viewer and for Mr. Clemens. Dracula was simply using Anna as a blood bank, and he was only keeping the crew alive to steer the ship until they reached the point of no return on the open water. Now, with the English coast just a day away, Dracula doesn't need anyone to steer the ship anymore. Open season has officially started, and the remaining crew are entirely expendable. Section 5, the final stand, sink the ship. The climax is absolute chaos as Dracula pulls out all the stops. We see him use abilities straight from the original novel, like shifting into a creeping mist to ambush the crew. He then reveals this monstrous, giant winged form, effortlessly plucking a man right out of the crow's nest in midair. In a desperate final move, Anna cuts a rope using a massive falling mast to pin the beast to the deck, which forces her and Mr. Clemens to abandon the crashing, but unfortunately not sinking, ship. Interestingly, this depiction completely ignores typical religious weaknesses. During the final battle, the captain bravely holds up his son's cross and renounces the devil, but the artifact has absolutely zero effect on Dracula, who just bites him anyway. The film makes it incredibly clear that this feral beast is impervious to standard religious iconography. Only the raw physical destruction of pure sunlight poses a genuine, fatal threat to the creature and his infected victims. Just one single survivor. Out of an initial crew of 9, Mr. Clemens is the singular, haunted man left standing. Knowing the creature survived the crash, Clemens arms himself with the knowledge of the cargo's destination and sets out to hunt the beast at Carfax Abbey in London, perfectly setting up a terrifying game of cat and mouse in the city. All right, let's wrap things up with Section 6, Lore and Review. A feral predator. Looking at the source review, the creator had huge praise for the feral, almost Beetlejuice-like practical design of the monster, noting how incredibly refreshing it was to see a completely inhuman Dracula. The conscious decision to strictly term him a devil adds immense weight to his terrifying presence. The creature design heavily reminded the reviewer of the monstrous angel in Midnight Mass, just a pure primal predator. And, importantly, despite the beast-like appearance, this Dracula absolutely retains his supernatural finesse, as he's shown teleporting and moving at blinding speeds in a London tavern at the film's end. And this is really the core of why this film stands out. It completely strips away the romanticism. We aren't dealing with a classic, charming count in a cape who flinches at a bulb of garlic. We're dealing with a feral, ancient predator who relies solely on his Transylvanian soil for rest and is weak to nothing but the burning rays of the sun. This version honestly feels like a necromancer or a sorcerer who may have quite literally made a deal with the devil. Now, while the reviewer wasn't entirely blown away by the film as a whole, they found the horror elements to be a massive success for the genre. The deeply creepy atmosphere and reliance on practical effects for Dracula's design were major highlights. On the flip side, they did note a few cons, specifically pointing out that the opening foreshadowing scene wasn't strictly necessary, and there were definitely moments of somewhat clunky dialogue. However, the sheer terror of that isolated setting more than makes up for those minor flaws. So we'll leave you with this chilling thought to ponder about his true motives. The reviewer questioned why Dracula was so singularly focused on Anna, even whispering her name through the walls. Was she always meant to be more than just food? Was she destined to become one of his immortal brides?
It's a dark mystery that lingers long after the credits roll, making you rethink everything you thought you knew about the Dracula myth. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer of a truly doomed voyage. Until next time, keep questioning what hides in the shadows.